Hello friends, welcome to my program Colonel's Punch. I am Colonel Dalip Thorat, retired, a war veteran. Today I am going to speak to you on 9/11 terror attack, which shattered the defense security system of United States of America. Well, gentlemen, on 9/11, world was not the same. America had changed. It was, till now, the American citizen thought that they were safe, but that was not to be. Mind you, both during the World War I and World War II, America being far away, 5,000 kilometers from the battle zone, was safe. But now, it seems the Americans have to rethink. Well, the man who made that terror attack, that sinister brain, that evil, sinister mind, was no one else than Osama bin Laden, the man who fought the Russians and Afghans. All of a sudden, he had become a fugitive and no one wanted him. But he wanted to do something that could change the very world. He wanted to take the attack on a far-off land, and that land was to be USA. Mind you, he was wanting to take revenge on the Americans on a number of counts. First, their involvement in the Middle East war, their presence on the Holy Land where they protected when Saudi Arabia called them over to secure that area. Now, he was not very pleased with this development, and he wanted to hit America hard, teach them a lesson, and also at the same time, he had a very sinister design. He wanted to let his Al-Qaeda reign in Saudi Arabia and in the Arab nations. It was an idea, it was an imagination. The US also could not. The US had number of opportunities, number of occasions to resolve this plot, sinister plot. But they could not think that it could be so huge that American cities will be under radar. Well, gentlemen, all the things resolved now on the Al-Qaeda's, Osama bin Laden's 19 militants. Some of them were already there in America. A year in advance, they were flying planes or learning to fly planes in the flying schools of USA. They had known and seen the areas and the rest of them were inducted into America a month or two earlier. So this was very well programmed. Now, what was on their target? You'll be shocked to know that on their target was World Trade Center, the very heart of world economy, where over 50,000 people work every day, where over 150,000 people visit that place. You can imagine what sort of a sinister mind it must be to do this human disaster or plan to do it. The other target was the very muscles of the USA, the army, the Pentagon. Now, that sort of a target requires great planning because the air defense system will be there, both in New York and Washington. And the third, which Osama bin Laden was after, was, why not, going for the president's house, White House. But then later it was realized that Sheikh Mohammed, the brain behind all this, had very clearly said that from the air it will be very difficult to attack the small target which is very well defended. So, Osama bin Laden was happy with these two targets, and on 11th September 2001, it was a bad day for the Americans. Mind you, the Americans somehow on the same day were practicing an air defense exercise called Exercise Valiant. And they were confused because they thought this is all a demo. And was it real or not? So that, imagine, the Americans were all prepared. They were having an exercise on that day by God's grace, but they were still wanting. Let's see what happened on that particular day, which America will never forget. It was 11 September 2001 at about early morning. These 16 militants boarded 4 American airliners, civilian airliners. There are passengers on it. They're basically from Boston. And they're flying across, some to California. Now imagine about 250 to 300 passengers on those 4 planes. They're all Boeings. Now the first plane, that was flight number 11. Once the plane took off at just about 8 o'clock, and it was airborne by about 8:30, 8:40 in the morning. The militants took over the plane. They commanded it. And they told the people, the passengers, be quiet. Don't get worried. We got our men on other planes also. If you remain quiet, we'll, in a very short time, land back so just don't worry. No, the passengers were baffled. But this suspicious sound was picked up by the air traffic controller, and he passed it down to the military. Now, the air defense system in America was quite robust, but it was not prepared for, someone from within or inland attacking its own country. So the forward air controller informed it to NORAD, that is the Aerospace Defense Command, Northern Aerospace Defense Command. And then NEADS, Northeast Air Defense Command. Now imagine this web of air defense. But the time was a factor. Firstly, they are all confused. Okay. Because whether it's a trial run, a trial exercise, or it's actual. So the man there asked them, is it actual? It's real. He said, real. But then all these aircrafts, very cleverly, those people had put off the transponders. And one aircraft also changed the code. Now, a very simple thing like that, the Americans were baffled. They could not track it and there was no time. By the time two F-15s took off, scrambled at about 8:40 and they were in air in about 10 minutes, the first plane, that was F-11, hit the World Trade Center North Tower at about 110th floor. Imagine a plane going and hitting a building. It was like an earthquake which shook the entire New York. The two planes which had scrambled up were still in air, and this plane had already done the damage. Remember, all these Boeings are having about 20,000 to 50,000 gallons of aviation fuel. They go at about 550 to 600 mph. Now, when they hit that building, of course, the wings got clipped, but they tunneled themselves into the concrete, the main head, and that 20,000 gallons of fuel exploded, stunning everyone, setting everything on fire. Now these American pilots, again, they are human. They are not like those suicide pilots. They were also confused. A plane having passengers, whether they could shoot it down and create problems, because they were not knowing whether the plane will go which direction. In the meantime, Osama bin Laden's second plane, which was hijacked, flight number 175. In the total view of public, because the internets were on world over. They saw this plane taking off and then making a U-turn and then flying low and then hitting, banging into the Southern Tower. Terrible. And at about 60th floor, so this was the one which was, which banged in a little lower. But the same explosion, the same earthquake feeling, the whole thing shattered. and both the buildings started rocking. Some people, about 200 of them, just jumped out from the 100th floor. It was a terrible thing to see men, women, skirts, like parachutes coming down. Most pathetic, most evil thing to do. And the rest of the 50,000 were an inferno inside. You can imagine what was happening. Now, the third plane in the meantime. All this is happening in, between 8:43 to about 10 o'clock, or 10:03. Right. So within 1 hour, 20 minutes, the third plane also got through, and it headed for Washington, D.C. And the target was Pentagon. They lowered themselves. And while doing that, it slid through a number of electric poles. And then it hit into Pentagon. Now remember, Pentagon was 40 years old. It was not a high-rise building. And it was well spread. No, it buzzed in, exploded, but it did not have the same effect because that building was very strong. The infrastructure was very well welded with iron and steel girders. The pillars were just about 20 feet apart or 20 meters apart. So that whole thing stood ground. And what Osama wanted to do, shatter the American defense system, was unable to do. Now, just about 165 people who were inside died, but that is also a very big figure. Now let us see what is happening on this front here. At the 50th minute, South Tower, which was hit at about the 60th floor, started shaking. And it just collapsed. Whole building, the tower came down. It was like a Goliath falling down. And the dust, the noise, the creak was something the world had never seen. I can foresee what must have happened when the nuclear bomb busted in Nagasaki. There was no time, the whole thing just fell. And when this shock was on, the fourth plane had taken off. And it was destined to go to California. But the passengers here fought through. They picked up the fire extinguisher and knocked at the pilot's cabin. Mind you, they made a severe assault, and these militants could do nothing about it. I wish the others could have done the same. And the pilot tilted the plane a little bit, and the plane crashed in the fields of Pennsylvania. I suppose this was a reserve plane, which could have gone for either of the three targets and created more problems. So this is the story of America. This is the story of the American people. 50,000 people hit on and go. But look at what happened. The heroic stand taken by the American firefighters, the American police, was something which astounded. They were screaming, and the ambulance was going up and down. and people were rescued. As there was nothing else but dust, dust, dust all over. It was a disaster of the highest order. 3,000 people perished. Nearly 250 firefighters and about 40 policemen were also killed to save those people. 265 passengers died in the aircraft. Imagine, 3,000 and over figures, and over 10,000 people injured. Now you'll ask me, what was the president doing at this time? President was a veteran. At about 9 o'clock or earlier to that, he was in the elementary grammar school. He was listening to a story. And he was with the children. When the attack took place, one of his aides silently came and told the president in his ear what happened. President remained calm like the real Americans. He was a veteran after all. He let the story end. It was something regarding my goat. And he shook hands with the teachers and the children and departed. You can imagine the President of America. He was cool. He knew what to do. He was flying. Then he was put on the Air Force One and he was flying around. But there also, the air defense people, they told the pilot, Colonel, look, Colonel, there are some aircrafts below you and under you, so you better be careful. They were not able to identify these aircrafts. Friend or foe, which is the minimum thing an air defense system could do. They could not track it. Their radars could not identify them. No, this was a gaping hole in the air defense. And they were not able to even, monitor or help the president playing with all those gadgets. So America One travels now onto the sea and was flying there. It was on the Gulf. What was the vice president doing? Well, he was in charge of the situation on the ground, and it took him about up to 10:30. That means about 2.5 hours to order the air defense, and the pilots were there that of the fighters who were above F-15 and F-16, that if they see a suspicious aircraft coming towards these targets, blow them up or shoot them. An order too late. Already 3,000 people had died. America's pride, economical center, and the army headquarters or base was hit. Well, let us see what happens after this. Well, the president flew down and was back in his headquarters. The entire American society were in motion now. The ambulances, the police, the stretcher bearers, the firefighters, all were working beyond time. It was a disaster which the Americans could only rise and handle. The world looked on, and a wave, a shock wave, went through the NATO and the American allies. Did they ever expect this? No. This was a very painful hit. I don't know, but the president and his cabinet debated it again and again. They took their time because to do anything in a hurry is going to make more mistakes. They had to clean up the whole area. They had to clean up the militants who were still hiding around. They could come back. They had to gear up the air defense. They had to be solid again. They could not be insane. So therefore, the President, George W. Bush, a war veteran, announced to the whole world on 20 September 2001 that they are going for an assault on all those terrorist groups. They will find them out, they'll search them and neutralize them wherever in the world. They'll fight terrorism to the last. The NATO countries who were the allies, they immediately backed and supported them, and they were prepared to take part in any operations that will be launched by the US. At the same time, there was a lot of work to be done. Troops started landing in the base in Afghanistan because Afghanistan was a place which supported, which had Taliban government and which supported Osama bin Laden. So the Allied forces smashed through, cleaning up Afghanistan, point by point, bit by bit. And hell was let loose on the militants and the militant group. They were wiped out. But then Osama bin Laden, the dirty fox, had escaped. And he had escaped to nowhere but there. America's biggest friend and ally, Pakistan. Pakistan, that's it. Pakistan was a hub of terror. It was, it was like a mercenaries who used to move out into Afghanistan, move out into India, move out across the world. They had a hand in pie everywhere. And finally, he was eliminated. But that's a different story. I don't want to go into it. Now, let me come down. What happened in America? First thing, American airports were not the same. Each of them were, passengers were very frisked, very strictly frisked. The luggages were seen. No one was allowed to carry, anything with battery, including laptops, which every American carried. Things like umbrellas, sticks, everything was out. Golf course, golf sets. They're all out. Now, anything which could hurt or any explosive or weapon could not get inside the airport itself. Forget anywhere else. Then the air marshals were put inside the aircrafts. Now, the air marshals were always armed, and one could never make out who was an air marshal. And they were all had good communications. Remember one or two people in those aircrafts which had crashed? They had passed messages, but there was no time for a family who has been told that something is happening to get to the air defense and then get some sort of a help. It has to be done by the government. So the air marshals came in. Friend and foe, identity checks, all this started happening. Mind you, the whole list of world terrorists, all those who were smugglers, bandits, who had murderers, and one had to be franked. Each of the individuals who will take off were franked now. So a web around the airport was placed. America was no more that sort of a place where you could just walk through the airports. Then came the Homeland Security. I was telling you, America was prepared to go out and fight, miles and miles, 10,000, 15,000 kilometers away. What about Homeland? Within America, so that to prevent terror attacks. So inland security, migration, immigration, customs, border security, so all important, so that every person coming and going out could be screened properly and the bad people picked up. So this was a cabinet now decision. So the Home Land Security System came into being. Then the Patriot Act. You know how legal facilities or legal system in America works. Human rights. The whole world, the communists have killed 20 to 40 million people. Hitler killed about 10 to 15 million people. And what happens in the Islamic world is known to you. And all these democracies of ours are the easiest to hit because we want human rights all the time. So therefore the Patriot Act gave full powers now to the FBI, NIA to enter into areas, to see the records, go into the libraries, and without even notifying the owner. So that was a major change. Now the defense side. The Northeastern Command was a total failure because they never had anything under them but some aircraft to fly over, the Air Defense Command. And they could only scramble them but not do what, but could not tackle them. So now the Northern Eastern Command was formed into Northern Command with command, control, all upgraded. They had both the need and order under them now. So it was a more integrated command, flexible. They did not have to go, and look upway. The entire system was made such that from the forward air control or traffic control, pilots, whatever they could speak now, one doesn't have to pick up the telephone, which in the earlier 11 September, they were trying to speak to others. Is it real, bad, good? One could see the plane. One could now see those chaps talking to you. One could hear them and one could act at all levels together. So therefore, you had larger, faster computers. You had larger, faster, speedier radars to look into everything. You had instant command and control, which was so important. The Americans used to have instant command and control in the war zones, in the Second World War and all, or when they went to Middle East. But within America, it was a big war which the terrorists had identified. Well, gentlemen, now it's okay, the air defense system has to change because the intercontinental ballistic missiles, which go over 5,000, which have kilometers, which have nukes, are a great problem now. It's a window open in America. Even North Korea is saying, oh, we'll get you there. Now Americans have to do something about it. The Patriots, third missile systems, they are really not workable for intercontinental ballistic missiles. So there are only 4 countries in the world who have got that know-how and they've got their weapon systems done up. First, of course, is Russia. Earlier they have got the best, as you all know, S-400 and advanced to S-500, but these really cannot take on ICBMs foolproof. So they are developed R-36M, then SS-18, as you call it. But the real ones, A-135, which is looking after giving coverage to Moscow. Now, this is what Russia has got. Russia is quite advanced in this. US is better now. They have got the GMDs. Now, these could blow up. Number of missiles coming together. Multi-targets could be targeted. The satellites are there. Satellite targeting is also there. The Israelis have got arrows, quite good. India, China are boasting of having it, and Taiwan. But all this has to be seen in a anti-ballistic missile weapon strategy. World is now open to militant attacks by planes, the planes being converted into missiles and then going and hitting targets, because half the world is flying around. Something will have to be done to see that the safety is prime. I always sometimes wonder if there's a bird hit, a simple bird hit in an aircraft, the turbines engines just go off and they have to land off. The pilot then, it becomes very scary. Then he goes into the sea, into a crash landing somewhere. He cannot go to the target. Maybe what I'm trying to tell you is something, a nature of which the pilot is made to react differently and avoid the target has to be done. Well, gentlemen, I think America is safe. The world is safe only if we can study and understand the evil mind of terrorists, the evil mind of countries which are expansionist. You know who I'm trying to tell you. There's a nation which has gunned down 5.5 million square kilometers after the Second World War. It has killed 20 to 40 million people. It is creating havoc in South China Sea. It is troubling the world's biggest democracy, India. It shows eyes to the whole world. It sells all the goods in trillions by making them at cheap rates from these occupied people, whether they are the most peaceful people in the world, Tibetans, or from Xinjiang, or inner Manchuria, or inner Mongolia, Yunnan, name it. They have literally taken over Pakistan. Pakistan, which was never a country, it never had its land and people. And the Balochistan, the Gilgit-Baltistan, Sindh, Pashtuns, all these people, I guess this military government, dictatorship, they have been killing in millions. In Bangladesh, they killed about 4 million people, and 4 million they sent to India. North Korea again, another, they're killing their own people like China and Pakistan. Now, these people pose a big danger, both military and terror-wise, because they are using terrorists. So the world has to take a decision. I wonder when and how, but there is a requirement that the world goes towards peace. I'm so happy that Israel and UAE have made up. The others will make up. But those 4 nations, I forgot to tell you, Turkey, China, Pakistan, North Korea, they will have to think, rethink. They'll have to give independence to all these people whom they have, occupied. The UN, has to be redone. You cannot have a UN with China vetoing everything which will go against the expansion theory. Of Pakistan having about how many? 10,000 to 20,000 terrorists all over the world. We'll have to do something about it. Think it. Thank you, gentlemen. Jai Hind.